Last week, I filled my truck with gas. Costs more than it used to, doesn't it? And then you can't believe what the gas station wanted me to do. They wanted me to pay for that gas. I was so mad. I'll tell you what, I'm never going back to that Circle K again, because all they want is my money. I ate lunch at Whole Hog. Food was great, as always. It's my favorite place. But then they ruined the experience. They actually asked me for money. How dare they? I tell you what, I'm not going to Whole Hog anymore. Every time I go there, all they talk about is money. Why do restaurants always have to bring up money? Cindy picked up some shirts for me at the dry cleaners. She got home. She's so mad. She said, I'm never going back to that place. You know what they did? They made me pay for your shirts. They don't care about us. They just want our money. It sounds ridiculous when you apply it to a restaurant, a gas station, or the dry cleaners. You'd never expect to go eat barbecue, fill up your truck, or pick up your cleaning and not address the issue of money. But when it comes to church, people have a different mindset. I've committed my life to Jesus. I don't swear, steal, or cheat on my spouse, but leave my money out of it. You can talk about anything else, but you better not talk about money or I'm out of here. It's interesting the disconnect many people have between their faith and their finances. The thought is, I go to church, I might even love God, but I am not going to let that affect what I do with my finances or how I spend my money. My faith and my finances are not connected. That disconnect isn't new. In Jesus' day, people had the same problem. That's why Jesus taught so much about giving and stewardship. At least 25% of his teaching was about wealth, possessions, or money. In this series, I'm teaching you 3 words and 3 simple principles that will absolutely revolutionize your financial life. It's not overstating to say, if you'll implement these 3 principles, your financial picture and your financial future will completely change. These concepts are simple to understand, but can be challenging to implement because so many of you have built your financial house on the wrong foundation. Tearing down your current strategy, starting over, can be painful. Your children are also learning these 3 words. They've got a huge advantage over you. They get to learn these principles at the start. I challenge you, even if you're messed up financially, teach your children well. And listen to me, it's not too late for you. Regardless of how messed up or out of order your finances are, you can start over with a sound, healthy, God-honoring strategy. Last week, we learned the first word, obey. If you want God's blessings, you have to obey his instruction. If you missed it, you can catch it on our website or YouTube channel. Although they know what the Bible says, many Christians think obedience in their finances is optional, that they can intentionally disobey the word of God without any repercussions. It's not true. If you want to live according to God's system, following his plan, the starting point is to tithe, to give God the first 10% of your income. Obey. Obedience is the foundation of a solid financial strategy. If you get that one wrong, then you're choosing to handle it alone without God's blessings. Now today we have the second word. First word was obey. Second word is pay. Now this is going to sound like a crazy idea to some of you. Admittedly, it's a counterculture way to live, but pay cash for everything you buy. Now I understand people don't use cash much anymore. You can't use cash online. Because of the coin shortage, some stores won't even accept your cash unless you have exact change. I'm not convinced there is a coin shortage, but they say that. I know you don't want to carry around a lot of cash. We've even got apps and kiosks at church because a lot of people want to give with their credit or debit card. It seems no one carries actual money. And that makes good financial strategies a little more difficult to implement. It takes more intentional discipline to track and manage spending when you don't use actual money. But even if you don't use cash, Pay your entire credit card bill every month. Not the minimum payment. The entire balance. Don't use consumer credit. Pay. You say, but Rod, how am I going to make it if I only spend what I make? I won't be able to pay all my bills and still do everything I want. Come on, listen to yourself. It's time for a wake-up call. If you don't have the money, don't make the charge. If you can't keep up with how much you have, go old school. Years ago, Cindy and I did the envelope system. Every paycheck, we'd get cash, and we'd split it up in envelopes. This envelope is grocery money. This envelope is for haircuts. This envelope is for gas. This envelope is spending money or eating out. And when the envelope was empty, so were we. If you don't use cash, split it into accounts or sub-accounts. However you do it, set aside specific amounts, and then don't spend what you don't have. When you spend what you don't have, you engage in what the government calls deficit spending. Deficit spending is when more money goes out than comes in. If you bring home $2,000 a month and you spend $2,200 a month, that's deficit spending. And when you practice deficit spending, you accumulate debt. You spend and borrow as if you've forgotten you have to pay it back. Problem is, you do. Over the last 20 years, I've had the same meeting more times than I can count. A couple will come into my office because their marriage is in trouble. I'm not a great marriage counselor. We all know that. But I ask a few questions. I do a lot of listening. And inevitably, I ask, so how much credit card debt do you have? They look at each other. They avoid looking me in the eye. And then one of them says, how did you know? Well, I don't know. I'm just asking questions. But over the years, I've learned that heavy credit card debt is present in almost every troubled marriage. More than 90% of the people I talk to with marriage problems also have credit card debt. According to Marissa Meyer, credit card companies can predict with 98% accuracy 2 years in advance when a couple is going to divorce, based solely on their spending patterns. Debt puts stress and strain on your marriage. And almost always couples say, well, we don't know how it got this bad. It just kind of grew. And after quite a bit of prodding, I finally get them to guess how much credit card debt they have. They're usually worried they'll shock me with the amount. Not likely. I've heard $15,000, $23,000, $38,000, $94,000. The highest I've heard was just over $180,000 in credit card debt. Okay, so relax. You're probably not going to shock me. Some of you are in desperate debt position that's causing great pain. Others of you have endured a divorce brought on by financial stress. That's a huge strain on your health, your marriage, and your family. Whether you're single, married, or divorced, if you have credit card debt, it's one of, if not the biggest stress in your life. I want to challenge you to change your thinking and patterns about credit and debt. I want you to think, pay now instead of pay later. Proverbs 22:7 says, the rich rule over the borrower, over the poor. The borrower is servant to the lender. The Message says it this way: the poor are always ruled over by the rich, so don't borrow and put yourself under their power. Jesus said, no one can serve two masters. Either hate the one and love the other, or he'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. This is not just a financial issue. This is a spiritual issue. Crushing credit card debt makes you a slave. Your decisions determined not by the direction of God, but by the minimum monthly payment on each card. I don't want you to be a slave. I want you to be free. You say, Rod, You're overstating it. I'm not a slave. Really? How many times have you wished you could give in an offering only to remember that your Visa bill isn't paid? How many times have you sensed God directing you to bless someone but not been able to because of your massive debt? Have you delayed God's call on your life because of debt? Your debt keeps you from being generous with others and stops you from responding at God's tugging at your heart to give. That sounds like a slave to me. So how do you know if you're a slave? If you have a problem with credit cards? Well, with the help of some friends, I came up with a simple test, and I put it in your outline. Okay, we're going to take it together. You just answer yes or no to each question. Don't say it out loud. But get a pen and write down, or just like circle every yes. Okay? Here we go. Number 1, I've taken a cash advance from one credit card to make a payment on another. That's a vicious cycle. Yes or no? Number 2, I'm not sure how many credit cards I have. Don't open your purse or your wallet to count. Answer truthfully. I have met people with as many as 25 credit cards. It's a lot of credit cards. Number 3, I'm not exactly sure how much I owe. By the way, when people say that, it's always more than they guess. I've yet to meet someone who says, well, I think it's about $3,000, and it turns out to only be $2,000. If you don't know, it's more. I'll meet with somebody to tell me how much debt they have. I'll say, well, why don't you just tally that up? Let's meet again. It's always more. Number 4, I dread going to the mailbox, or I hurry to the mailbox so my spouse won't see the credit card bills. If you're hiding your true position from your spouse, you have a significant problem that's going to get worse. You need to have an honest conversation today if you've broken the bond of trust in your marriage. Number 5, I'm making only the minimum monthly payment. That's a trap. You'll never pay down your debt that way. If you're just making the minimum monthly payment, you'll be paying it forever. Number 6, I pay my credit cards on the final day. I see that often. The result is that you end up one entire month behind. You're paying last month's bills with next month's money. Number 7, I'm optimistic that one day all this debt will be gone, but I don't have a plan. That's how you justify still using the cards. You've convinced yourself it's just for a period of time, but you don't know how long that period of time will last or when it comes out. Number 8, when it comes to money, I'm on an emotional roller coaster. Some days it doesn't bother you at all, but every once in a while you realize you're in trouble. Credit card debt has caused you depression, anxiety, and stress. You're in the 27% of people that have lost sleep because of money. Number 9, credit card debt is causing significant strain in my marriage. We argue and fight about money. And then number 10, I play the balance transfer game, transferring balances from one credit card to another in order to avoid payment. Very closely related to that is the interest rate game, where you convince yourself you're making progress by shifting the balance to a lower rate card, but still not making any payments against the balance. Okay? So did you circle every time it was yes? If you answered yes to any of those questions, you might have a problem. If you answered yes to 3 or more, you definitely have an issue. You're a slave to your debt. If you answered yes to 5 or more, you're in crisis. We need to talk about this because many of you are slaves to the wrong master. So today I want to talk to 2 groups of people. The first group, you're not yet in debt. You don't use credit cards, maybe because you're not old enough to have one, or because you keep getting rejected, or maybe somebody taught you good early in life. Listen to me. Pay. Pay cash or pay your full balance every month. Don't let us. Visa, MasterCard, or American Express become your master. It's called MasterCard for a reason. If you can't pay for it now, don't get it. Say, but everyone has better stuff than me. Trust me, one day you'll have better stuff than them with one big difference. You'll actually own your stuff instead of having stuff that you're paying for 8 more years. Pay. The second group of people I want to talk to is those who've neglected this principle, and you have a problem. You might just now be admitting it, or you've known for quite some time. It seems overwhelming. And you wonder, is there any hope? Can I ever dig out? I'm going to give you 10 steps. 10 steps to get out. Number 1, start today. Every significant change in your life starts with a commitment. Make the commitment today, right now, to be debt-free. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month. Commit to being debt-free now. It's not going to be easy. You're not going to wake up one morning and presto, it's just all gone. Getting in debt is pretty easy. Doesn't take much work at all. But it takes commitment, courage, character, and discipline to get out of debt. So take the first difficult, tough step of character. Make the commitment right now. Write the date and time in your outline. It's 5:48. This is the moment you decided to escape financial slavery. Number 2, do a personal financial inventory. Here's what that is. Number 1, what do I own? Actually own. That means it's paid for, completely paid for. You own it. Number 2, what do I owe? Banks, credit cards, cards. What do I owe? Number 3, what do I make? What do I make a week? What do I make a month? What do I bring home? What's the amount? If you still get checks, I still like to get checks, or if you get direct deposit, what amount do you end up with? What are my fixed bills? That's the ones that go out every month. They're not optional. Next part of the inventory, what can I live without? Now that part of the inventory isn't any fun because we've redefined essentials. Cable TV, cell phone data plans, Netflix, high-speed internet. We've convinced ourselves we can't live without. But what are the true essentials? And you've learned because of a snowstorm. Milk and bread, right? Got to have milk and bread. You can live without Netflix, but you got to have milk and bread because you're not going to make it through snowpocalypse without milk and bread. Got to have a milk and bread sandwich. Just think of all the different ways you can put together a meal with milk and bread. You can drink milk and then eat bread. You can eat bread, then drink milk. You can make toast. Unless the power goes out, then you can just pretend it's toast. What are the essentials? An inventory is important because ignorance of your financial condition is a recipe for financial disaster. You need to know where your money's coming from, how much it is, where it's going. Sit down, figure out what you own and what you owe. You say, well, this doesn't sound like very much fun. I understand. Proverbs chapter 24 says, by wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it's established. Proverbs 18 says, it's stupid to decide before knowing the facts. Get the facts on your financial situation. Then after you've made the commitment and done an inventory, number 3, get help. Proverbs 20:18 says, get advice if you want your plans to work. If you get sick, where do you go? A doctor. You don't try to cure yourself. Well, until COVID, now everybody's a medical expert and you're doing some weird things to cure and prevent COVID that really concern me. Now I'm going to go on. If you're lost, You ask for directions. Unless you're a man, then you just get worse loss. If your car breaks, you get a mechanic. When something's broke, you get someone smarter than you to help you fix it. If you're deeply in debt, you need help from someone smarter than you about money. I'm not talking about a salesman who wants to sell you a product. I'm talking about someone who, from a financial objective viewpoint, can sit down, look at your finances, help you get them in order, and work out a strategy. Get help. You got yourself in this mess, so you need someone smarter than you to help you get out of it. A great place to get help is Financial Peace University. Started Wednesday night, but it's not too late to get involved. There's more information at firstnlr.com/events, or there's a table with a shredder in either lobby that I'm going to talk about in just a minute with more information there. Get help. You should never make a major financial decision or a purchase without getting good financial advice, because your emotions get involved. You need a clear voice of reason. You need an objective voice that will say, you can't really afford that. You don't understand. We love this house. That's great. You can't afford it. Maybe if we just say, no, you can't afford it. Number 4, make a budget. And then this is crazy. Live by the budget. A lot of people make a budget and they don't follow it. And then they say, well, I tried a budget and it didn't work. It's not the budget that didn't work. It's you. And listen, plan for some fun in your budget. If you don't do that, you'll never stick to it. It's okay to have fun once in a while. Number 5, set up a repayment plan. You will not get out of debt accidentally. You got to have a plan. Proverbs 21:5. Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity. If you want to be prosperous, you have to have a plan. If you want to get out of debt, it takes a plan. There are different methods to get out of debt. I don't have time to go through them all, but you can read about a few of them by scanning the QR code in your outline. You need a plan. You also need patience. There's no quick fix. It takes time and commitment. Number 6, stop overspending. No new debt. Most of you got into debt for one reason. Now, there are exceptions, but most of the time, the simple reason you're in debt is because you spend more than you make. Stop that. Stop it now, not tomorrow, now. You'll never get out of debt if you keep putting things on the credit card while you're trying to pay credit card off. Remember this word, pay. Okay, I want to teach you something really cool, okay? Get your pen. Once you write this on your outline, I'm going to teach you a phrase. This is going to be earth-shattering for some of you. Ready? Write it down. I'm sorry, I can't afford that. Okay? You got it? I'm sorry, I can't afford that. Let's do this. Say it with me. I'm sorry, I can't afford that. Let's try it again. I'm sorry, I can't afford that. See, that's pretty easy. Pride keeps you from saying, sorry, we can't eat out with you. It's just not in our budget, or we can't afford it. Or I'm sorry, I can't afford to go to the game with you. I can't afford that right now. Say it. Stop overspending. Some of you need to stop spending time with friends who encourage you to overspend. You may need to suspend your social media accounts so you don't feed your desire to collect more stuff and have more Instagram-worthy experiences than you can afford. And let me let you in on a secret. The average American adult is more than $58,000 in debt. So most of the people you see on social media, they can't afford that stuff either. Jesus said, if your right hand offends you, cut it off. He wasn't talking about mutilation. Jesus was saying, deal seriously with things that mess up in your life. If you got in debt with credit cards, you need to go home, destroy those things, never use them again. When you get home, have a plastic surgery party. Sit down at the kitchen table with your 27 credit cards, a pair of scissors, and start cutting. Cry if you need to, but cut till nothing's left. Listen to me, you don't even have to wait till you get home. In both lobbies today, there's a shredder. Stop by the shredding station and say goodbye to all those credit cards. You say, well, Pastor Rod, if you're so against credit cards, why do we have credit card giving? I'm not against credit cards. I'm against abusing credit cards. I understand if you travel, you need a credit card. With shopping online, you need a credit card. Credit cards aren't bad as long as you do 3 things. Number 1, pay it off every month. 2, don't use it to buy stuff that's not in your budget. Number 3, you and your spouse make a promise that if you ever go 1 month without paying off, you'll immediately destroy the card and never use it again. If you do that, you'll never have a problem with credit cards. Remember the key word, pay. Number 7, you're going to like this idea a lot. Increase your income. You say, how do I do that? Here's some ideas for you. Sell stuff. If you're stuck in debt, you probably have things in your house you need to sell. Have a garage sale. Put it on eBay, Facebook Market. Sell some stuff you never should have bought. If God told you to give away something or sell something, and you say, well, I could never do that. I could never sell that. Even if God told me I couldn't sell that, that's called an idol. In Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 7 says, get rid of every idol. Some of you have idolized your house. You've idolized your car. You've idolized a vacation home or a boat. The Bible says, get rid of idols. Sell some stuff. Here's another idea. Get a second job. You say, that's crazy. Well, it depends on your priority. Years ago, Cindy and I both worked extra jobs for a year. For 1 year, between us, we had 4 jobs. It wasn't easy. We were tired. But with 4 incomes, we were able to pay off debt and put away money for our son's college. It wasn't easy. It was worth it. Here's another idea. Work overtime. Take an extra shift. Volunteer for extra jobs. I was a ghostwriter on a book. I've written for magazines and periodicals and curriculums. And then, with the extra money you get for extra work, put everything extra towards the debt. Don't blow it or splurge. Pretend like you don't have the money and put it on your debt. Living by a budget will help you with that. Number 8, be accountable. Plans fail due to lack of accountability. Keep meeting with your advisor. Bring your budget and your bills. Give them permission to ask you the tough questions. Be accountable. Number 9, don't quit. My life verse, Galatians 6:9. Let us not get tired of doing what's right, for after a while we'll reap a harvest of blessing if we don't get discouraged and give up. Getting out of debt takes discipline, effort, sacrifice, and time. These principles work, but you have to work the principles. Be patient, celebrate victories along the way, encourage yourself to keep going, call your advisor, mentor, celebrate when you pay off the balance of a card. So don't celebrate by buying something else with that card. Celebrate when you sell a property or item that you're able to use to pay down a significant portion of debt. Celebrate when you write your biggest check to pay down debt. Why does this matter so much? I don't want you to be a slave to debt. I want you to be free.